Welcome to the Uncontested Investing Show, presented by REI Inc. magazine and sponsored by RCN Capital. Each week, we focus on bringing you candid convos from the best in the biz. Here's your host, Tim Harridge.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harridge. Thank you so much for stopping back by. Today, I'm with a bit of a crazy person, Terrence Burner. Terrence, how you doing, bud?
Man, oh man, that's how you're gonna start off? Shoot.
Well, I'm gonna start off by asking you to tell everybody a little bit about LA, where you're from.
LA Birkin?
No, I'm just kidding.
2,000 people, a lot of cows, a lot of trailers.
A little bit more about yourself, I should say.
So, oldest of four. Used to beat my younger brothers into doing my chores. That's just like their rite of passage growing up in my house. Dad's a mechanic, married to a smoking hot blonde. Took me from a 5 to I think I'm a 9 now, right? That's what happens. Economies of scale in your marriage. And I've got 4 kids. Oldest is just turning 16, and he's freaking crazy.
He is.
Yeah, in all the best ways.
And Menace is not something like, it's not a fight club. Since you just kind of introduced about beating up your brother.
Have you ever seen Fight Club?
I
They
have.
say first rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. First rule of Menace is you always have to talk about Menace. It's like the opposite of Fight Club. We want everybody to know about it.
Well, why don't we tell them about it?
What would you like to know? What is it?
Yes.
Yeah, so menace to society like has a negative connotation. Like people think like you're supposed to behave a certain way. We've all grown up with these belief systems that other people have put around us, good or bad, right? But menace is just about, man, being a menace in your family, being a great dad, right? Being a menace husband, menace wife, being a menace with your kids, be a menace in your business. Like decide what you want to do for you and leave all the other things that maybe other people have tried to put on you and just do what it is that you want to do. Like be an example and be a menace.
And before you were a menace, or
dude, that day,
well,
there's never been that day.
Before you knew what a menace was, you had a little bit to do with real estate. From what I understand, you still do. Could you say a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'm in the process of shifting my business. So we're starting Menace Capital. We're going to do a $75 million reggae fund, and we're going to go do really big deals. Previously, what I've done is I've just done a bunch of small little single family stuff. And what I realized last year is it takes more energy to deal with the smaller deals than it does with the bigger deals. And the bigger deals are way more exciting. You get to work with way cooler people. And so we're in the process of launching that in January, and we're going to go do $1 billion in transactions over the next 4 years. I think right now, if you're not thinking that way, you're freaking out of your mind.
But previously, you would do a couple hundred houses a year.
Yeah, we probably
turnkey.
done 1,200, 1,500 houses. We would do.
You'd buy them, fix them, sell them to other investors.
That's it.
And you've got a financial planner background, right?
Yep. So I ran a registered investment advisory firm. I wore custom fitted suit jackets and red bottom shoes, and every outfit I put on was $4,000 or $5,000 and this or that, and and I said the hell with that and ditched it all. Living a better life. I hit the road with my dog and my Harley.
So we're going to talk a lot about ditching that for a better life, but the first segment of every show I do is called The Bottom Line Up Front. So just imagine that there's someone out there and they're going to listen to this, and then they get distracted by life. They get distracted by family. They stop at a gas station and forget to turn the podcast back on. So take up to 2 minutes and just give them the best juice you got. The 2 minutes of the things that they, in this market, in today, like what they should be thinking about, what they should be doing, what they should be avoiding, kind of like the summary of what we're going to talk about for the next 30 minutes, right? You good?
Sure. I don't think I'm the guy to tell people what to do and what not to do. I think that's part of the problem. I think most of our lives, everybody's trying to look out for us. All they're doing is they're trying to experience dump on us. Oh, you don't understand, I did this, and maybe you shouldn't do that. And it creates this box of limiting beliefs that because somebody else had a certain experience with something that you're gonna go repeat it. And I just don't believe any of that. So I think right now what you should be focused on is assets and liabilities. I'm not talking about assets and liabilities you'd find on a balance sheet. I'm talking about assets and liabilities in your life. It's the most overlooked thing is the types of relationships that you have in your life. Are they assets? Are they adding to the mission? Or are they liabilities and they're pulling you away from the mission? Like the other day, I like if you look at my hair, I got nice trimmed up hair. The beard's all messed up because halfway through with my barber, he got negative. I said, take this thing off me. And I walked out of the barber shop because he got negative. I said, hey, this will be the last time I'm here. Have a great life. Go ahead, bang my card. I will never come in here again. You are far too negative for me. But most people, they think like, oh, I got to sit back and be polite. And just because this person's having a bad day doesn't mean their bad day's got to pour on you. So I'm so hypersensitive about that. And I think it's the most underrated play that people could be making right now in their life is, are they adding? Are they subtracting? You either gotta spend more time with them or dump some of these people in your life. So I think if you can get clear on the types of people you want in your life, everything else takes care of itself because you'll have better opportunities, better, deeper relationships. The money will flow because you'll be around the right kinds of people. All the bad things that come and go in our lives usually associate with the people that are in it.
So that was great stuff, man. Mainly because I'm living that right now.
In what way?
After I left Blackstone and B2R Finance, I kind of went into a shell.
What was B2R Finance?
It was the big lending company we started with Blackstone back in 2013. I was waiting for it to go public, just happy, plenty of money.
Satisfied?
Yep, hanging out with my wife and my kids and my contractors.
I met your wife. She's a great wife.
Right.
I don't want to fault you for that.
Right. High level thinker. The other four weren't. My children, my contractors.
I've never met him, but I've seen you've made some very clear messages that he's not welcome to stay into his 30s at your house.
Well, late 20s, mid 20s even. Right. But the point is it got to where I was happy making money, but I was intellectually like regressing. I wasn't around a lot of people that were adding to me. I was spending all my time really just going around adding to them. And it was good. It was fun. Ate a lot of barbecue.
Why do you think you had those kinds of people in your life?
Well, I was complacent. I wasn't pushing anymore. I was just complacent. I'd worked really hard for a couple of years, and I was taking some time off. And
do you think it was because the kind of the business you were in, where you're just like, I need to go out, I need to do the dog and pony show because I got to dig up business, and so you're always used to just pushing out, that you really didn't always pay attention to stuff?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You think there was some of that?
Yeah, I mean, and also, what is it saying? Like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
For sure.
Right, and when I was tired after the last business, and I said I need to spend more time with my family.
Yeah.
It's a very cliche thing to say.
Yeah.
I started spending more time with my family, and you know, frankly, that was 2016. So, I mean, the little one was 7. You know, so not a lot of high-level thought from a 7-year-old. So yeah, it's like I get that, right? Like, I wish I had done a better job over the last couple of years at being around people that added value to my life, more people that added value to my life. And that's been the nice thing about we took the company public last year, and then Jeff brought me into RCN, and now I get to go around, and the more I get around people like you, you made a big impact on me at the boardroom. It's like, holy crap, like, why are you so worried about like the next million? Like, let's do the next 100 million. Let's do the next billion.
My thing is I just sat back and watched. I'm like, this guy's figured out how to stack the next million very easily. Like, it takes very little effort for you at this stage of your life. I'm like, but he had to go figure out how to stack 20 million. That would stretch him beyond what he's just like on autopilot with. I'm like, this guy's just on autopilot. He's like, grab 500 grand, grab another million, you're just like this little money attractor.
Yeah, I mean, I made like 40 or 50 grand last week just off of taking a couple calls from a realtor. I mean,
yeah, where's my cut? I'm your agent. We launched this new part of the company. It's called M Agent, Menace Agent.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, 25%
awesome.
cut.
I'll talk to my wife, the broker.
Okay. She'll cut me in for sure. I was pushing hard on that Belize deal.
Oh, I know, right? So now you're looking at going into the Reg A business, raising the fund. I'm excited to be working with you on that in the near future. You've got MenaceCon. So I met you. One day you were wearing a shirt at the first boardroom I went to. It's like just said CEO or something in like black letters. Like it was like I had no idea what it meant. And then the next day it's the fist on the hat.
That's right.
And I was like, what is that?
People still ask.
And then the next month in mid-July, late July, you were having the first MenaceCon.
Yep.
Which, important note, I gave you crap about how hot it was going to be. And it was actually colder in Phoenix than Dallas that day, which sucked for me. But no, really, like, talk to me about registered investment advisor, turnkey real estate provider, MenaceCon. What's that transition mindset like for you?
I don't know. I just think you build skills where you're at. And what I've learned to do is just be open as other opportunities are there. Sometimes like you got the people that just like, they hop around. We all know those people. It's like next week they're Earl the painter. Following week they're Earl the juice drink MLM guy, right? Every week Earl's hitting you up for something. But I think at some point for me, every business served me where I kind of got the skills that I needed to from that business. Like my very first business, I learned actually about business. I quit a 6-figure corporate job at 22 years old, and I thought I was the hopefully I can say that word. I already said it, so you have to edit it out. But I thought I was and then because I was in sales. And so the thing that I never really put together when I was young is these people fed me leads. So all I had to do was get on the phone, and they were already interested, so I had to close them. And then I got into my first business, and I realized, okay, you're 22, 23, you're in the money business, you've got to get a 65-year-old to say, hey, I want to give this 22-year-old my $500,000 portfolio and know that he's going to do a great job. And so I realized like I was wildly unprepared for that. And so going through that transformation, it taught me very quickly to build skills where at 22 I could sit in front of somebody and say, hey, let's move this $1 million from Charles Schwab over here and have it managed. But I about went out of business the first 2 years. I think I made $30,000 my first year because I didn't realize I had to go out and generate my own leads, build all the trust to close the leads, like have all my own credibility. And so you just kind of, I think as you move through different stages, like I got to a point where I had capped out what I could learn in terms of skills that business taught me. And I was just like, man, there's really nothing more here. And so I just always have these feelings where I'm like, man, I need more and this place can't provide it. I'm not getting any better here. And so I start looking around. And because I've always been open, I find that next opportunity. So I got into my second business and I got to start that business completely from scratch with a multimillionaire. He wrote me blank checks and I built the brand, negotiated all the contracts, had a 10,000 square foot schwanky office in Scottsdale, recruited a couple hundred advisors. I was training guys from some of the big wirehouses like Edward Jones and Charles Schwab and Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. And so it taught me a set of skills where I had built a company from the ground up, operations, had to hire people. And this guy loved to travel, so he was never really in my way ever. To his detriment, actually, because it screwed up a bunch of shit, as you can imagine. But he just had a bunch of cash, and he believed in me, truthfully. So he kind of let me work through that. But when I got to a point where I was like, okay, I've hit this ceiling again, because we were actually partners, and he kind of reneged on some things. He's like, hey, we're going to rearrange how the cash is flowing into the business. You're not going to get as much of it, by the way. The thing is I now had a different set of confidence because I had a certain set of skills, like Liam Neeson says, right? I have a very particular set of skills now. And so I left that business, and I was able to turn on a business from scratch, and I recreated what took me 3 years in about 60 days. And so I think for people, it's like, once you build those skills, like don't be afraid to move to the next thing that will help you build the next set of skills, because you don't ever lose those things. Like the only thing that will keep you broke is having the skills to make money. Once you have the skills to make money, it doesn't matter what it's in. And so moving through all of those things and now doing the $75 million Reg A fund, like I'm just good with people. It's what I enjoy, even as I'm a massive introvert. Like, man, like I get off the stage, I want to go stand in a corner by myself. Don't talk to me. Don't wink at me. You know, yeah, exactly. Don't even, none of that, right? But I think for people, they're just so afraid. Their identity's tied to a business. And it's like, yeah, but don't you want what can come from learning what's next? And so for me, it's just like, next, what's the next thing, you know?
You know, and one part of my journey has been just realizing the the power of compounding, right? Compounding time, compounding assets,
Relationships,
and that's kind of what's, I think, almost what you were just talking about, because you can only go so far with, we'll just say, single family investments.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're only in single family investments. They never become a bad investment.
Yeah.
But that highway has a certain speed limit on it,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And it's funny, I used to make fun of the people that were going from, I'm going to sell all my single family and get into multifamily.
Yeah.
But like really, when you learn to look at it a little bit differently, if you find the right investment, you find the right fund, most of them you can earn somewhere from a 15 to 20% IRR, which if you hit 20, you're doubling your money every 5 years.
Yeah.
And it just math. If you have $1 million in equity on 10 houses, right? Those 10 houses you will not double your equity in 5 years.
For sure.
If you keep them. But if you sell them and put $1 million into a 20 IRR thing, like, you double your money in 5 years.
I think though too, like from doing the financial planning, like I got stuck in that world. I was always looking 30 years out because you're having conversations with someone. Bob and Jennifer, if you'll save $372 a month extra in your 401k, you'll have another $1.3 million, right? You just have those conversations over and over and over again. And you're always trying to get somebody to look so far into the future that sometimes you forget what's going on right now. And it's like, this isn't always about 30 years from now. And sometimes, like you're talking about all the single family stuff, sometimes like I just don't have the fear to trade everything that I have now for what I actually have figured out that I want later. Like, I'm not afraid. It's like liquidate, all in. Like when I'm so dialed in and white hot on it, I'm not trying to preserve and create. Those are like trying to take a left and a right turn at the same time. Like a tall short guy, a skinny fat guy. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. They'll never align. And in your subconscious, you don't realize that you're creating a battle for yourself when you're saying, like, I want to go do this other thing, but not at the expense of this thing. And so you don't ever realize, like, this thing never becomes what it can over here if you don't give this thing up. So, like, selling a portfolio of single family homes and doing the bigger play won't happen if you don't get the cash that you've built up over here to go do the big thing over here. And I have a buddy that he probably owns 25,000 single family houses. He was making bids on Zillow's portfolio that they totally just crapped the bed on, right? That's the space he's in, and that's all he does. But he's actually not in the single family space. He has this really cool piece of software that scans the MLS 24/7 and basically has their offer box and pulls in deals and makes automatic offers. But it's really cool. He's actually really in the software space tied to single family. But my point with all of that is like, whatever you want to do, like, just do it. But something's got to give. Like, you got to give up something for the thing that you've decided that you want. And sometimes you just got to look and say, well, if it's sacrificing never seeing my family or my kids, that's not ever going to make it on the table. If it's cashing in all of these things and moving all of that capital to the next space, I'm game for that all day, because I'm not afraid to run thin or be broke for a short period of time if it's aligned with the mission and the bigger picture, which is, like, for example, the next milestone for us is going from where we're at to $100 million valuation in 3 years. Like, that's the goal. It's what's on all my partners' phones. I got everybody dialed into it, created all the verticals. I understand how the whole thing works, but none of it feels like work. I think that's when for me, I never realized that could exist, where you could do something and never feel like you ever had to do something. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And I think we're going to take a break.
No, we're not. We're not taking a break. This is Terrence. I'm the new host of RCN Capital, and we don't take breaks around here because we're not lazy. We push forward. We're in a recession, folks. Just kidding.
So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back, and I want to talk about the way society has.
He's hosting it. I'm actually hosting the show.
I'm going to talk about the way society has us wired. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for fast funding for your next fix and flip? What about leverage for your next long-term rental or vacation rental? Need capital for a new construction project? Look no further. RCN Capital has you covered. As the leading nationwide lender for real estate investors, RCN Capital offers short-term and long-term financing solutions for your next investment property. RCN Capital takes a common-sense approach to your loan request, offering high leverages and low rates backed by superior customer service. Whether you're investing in single-family properties or multifamily properties across the U.S., RCN Capital has funding options for you with no hoops to jump through and quick closings in as little as 2 weeks. Ready to get a quote for your next investment property? Visit rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today. There is no fee to apply. Again, that's rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harridge with my co-host, Terrence.
Yeah, this is my junior host, actually, Tim Harridge here on Uncontested Investing.
I want to talk about, when we first met, you were telling me the story, and I don't want to get political, please, about it all, your new brand came from someone telling you you were a menace to society, and you were just like, damn it, I am. And now it's become, it's a movement. You're attracting people from all industries that want to take control of their lives and want to live by a different standard. But could you just, and earlier you kind of touched on it, like kind of the way that society tells you things are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Could you talk about some of the societal norms that you challenge or dispute, and kind of what, in your mind, it is to be a menace?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've learned through this whole process is just to say, why not? I was talking off camera to Casey, who you had on earlier. We were talking about some things, got a very successful business, and he kind of asked some similar questions. I said, the biggest thing I've learned that I've added into my life is just to say, like, why not? Like, what is it without restrictions or any outside influence that if you were to just get crazy and just let your mind kind of wander like my 4-year-old and believe that she can still be Elsa from Frozen and shoot ice out of her hands, right? Like, you could like almost think with that childlike mentality, like what kinds of things would you start putting on a piece of paper? And then just starts asking yourself, like, why not? Like, why not? Usually we rationalize away some of these things because of the influences in our life and how we're raised. So I think a menace, there's really not a definition for anyone, because everyone gets to decide what kind of menace they want to be. Like, you know, for me, I'm kind of crazy. You know, I've taken over Uncontested Investing. Now I'm hosting this every single week. And, you know, that's just how I am. But other people, it's like just being a freaking good mom, like, and not judging yourself to how the world thinks you should be as a woman. You know, I think that's a menace. I think a woman that decides to just be who she wants to be as a mom without the outside influence of, you know, the perceptions of society, that's a freaking menace to me. You know, and our kind of our core tagline is be an example, be a menace. I just think that means whatever it means to whoever it means to. For me, it's just having the freedom, you know, not to sound like a bumper sticker, but just like deciding to be who you want to be, whatever that means, without influence from Tim, without influence from any of our 57 guests that we have out here in the audience. You know, see, that's what I do. I came on here just to see if I could get reactions out of you while we're doing the show.
You're getting them.
But being that menace is just like, man, who do you want to be without any outside influence from anybody else? And then just say, why not? Like, why not? And just looking at things that way has totally sparked me down a path where essentially we've collapsed 15 years worth of work, I believe, in 6 months because of the things that we've put in place.
It was interesting when I met you in Denver in June. You did not tell me anything about MenaceCon. And then a week or two later, you were like, oh, yeah, I'm having this MenaceCon.
Yeah.
And within 6-8 weeks, you put the whole thing together.
Yeah.
and standing room only.
Yeah.
The energy on day one was just amazing. And I've been to a lot of conferences. Probably the best energy I've felt in a room this year. And I think you've got people really excited. How do you go from excitement to execution?
How do you go from excitement to execution? Well, you just don't talk about how you're excited, right? You've got to talk about the things that you've got to go do. And so I think the thing is, can you get people excited around the things that now they've got to go do is the key. Because when you're around the right people, like you and I don't just sit around and we're not like, ooh, we're so excited together. I can't believe we're so excited. This is amazing. Like you don't, like people always say, I got to work on my mindset. Well, you usually only have to work on your mindset when you're around people and you're just talking about working on your mindset. When you're in the right rooms, like the right rooms, they're focused on the action. They're focused on the doing. Like we're having conversations and it's about how do I go do? What does that look like? How do I move from idea to execution as quickly as possible? So for Menace, it was less about the bum rubs and the hugs, like some of these conferences, and it was more about like, hey, this is what, like let's get dialed in and throw out everything all the garbage you may have showed up with, and then let's get really clear on what that looks like, but then let's get you excited about taking the action and doing the things that get results, not just talking about how excited we are that we came up with a really cool idea. Like, what does that actually look like to go from the excitement you have to pushing the idea forward? And that's the difference, I think. Not that everybody does it, not that everybody does it at the same pace or the same speed, but that you really should have a conversation with people that's real, that it's like, it takes real work, it takes real commitment. It takes courage to do the things that you want to do. Far beyond a financial commitment, it's a personal commitment of courage to do the things that you want to do.
I think when I listened to you explain the M8 method, right, mm-hmm. the way that you guys help with business implementation, mm-hmm. I think it was very important the way you emphasized almost time is of the essence. Yeah. Action is required, yeah. and you got to show up.
For sure.
Right? Like, and I think if there's a takeaway for anyone out there listening, like those three things, I mean, they'll get you a lot farther than most, I'd say, mindset or even education.
Oh,
right?
For sure.
Like, I mean, show up, do the work.
Well, people always say, we've heard all these little catchy phrases like, show up, it's half the battle. Whatever. I don't agree with that. It's how you show up. It's like, what do you do when you actually show up?
Right.
Because just showing up doesn't get you anything. Like, I think so many times we want to clap for ourselves when we really haven't executed on what it is that we want, because we're around what I think are the most dangerous people, which is when you start to have success that's outside of what people around you, like they look at you and it's like, oh, Tim, great job. You're doing so amazing. And you're the guy that's throwing the barbecues and the parties, and they know you got the rental properties, and those are your influences. Well, all of a sudden they're just like, good job. Those are the most deadly people to be around, because they're the ones that cause you to cool off. They're the ones that cause you to celebrate too early. They're the ones that they actually pull you out of alignment with the things that you've told yourself that you wanted, and you don't even realize it. And so, those are the people I'm looking out for. I was talking to, again, Casey off camera. He's got a $70 million portfolio at 34 years old. Everyone in his life wants to give him a pat on the back, and he's frustrated on the inside because it doesn't look like he wants. And so he's going to have to tear some things down to build it into the monster that he wants. But he's got all these people patting him on the back and giving him hugs like he's crossed some finish line at 34 years old already. And I was just talking to him. I said, man, those have been the most dangerous people in my life, because it causes me to cool off and think that I've arrived at the place that I wanted to arrive to, when all I did was I just stopped short of my destination, because I got to a place that other people couldn't even imagine. My dad, probably even today, barely makes six figures. I was making more than him at 22 years old. So at 22 years old, I'd already hit a milestone. And, then you start to make that in a month, and your dad, again, oh, it's so amazing. And you're the guy that can pay for dinner when the $200 bill comes, and you're signing the bill, and they think you're freaking Superman. And I'm like, it's $200. But it's the most dangerous place to live, is in a circle full of just those people. Not saying to not be around them, but you definitely got to have the other circles of influence, and that's what Menace is about, man. It's creating a community of people like that, where you can bring your craziness, you can bring, you can ditch the people that tell you that you've arrived, and you can come find the new destination of your life around the same kinds of people.
When I was, it's 21 years ago, 22 years ago, today. Today's the Marine Corps birthday. I was in Croatia. It's my last deployment.
Thanks for serving. Like, for real. I know people always say that, and it's kind of like tongue-in-cheek, but it's a big deal.
We'll go celebrate later. I'm 247 years old.
Woo!
And I was in Croatia, and I had the opportunity to re-enlist. And at that time, they were giving my MOS a $50,000 lump sum tax-free re-enlistment bonus. And but you had to sign while you were in the combat zone, kind of thing. And I called my dad, corporate guy, right? I'm like, Dad, what should I do? He's like, oh my gosh, son, this is so great. Do you know how much taxes you're saving? I mean, like, you could put that money in a 401k, and I mean, son, you got to re-enlist. You could retire when you're 38 and have a whole nother career.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
Just awful.
Yeah.
But I love my dad.
Yep.
He was just doing what he was taught.
Yeah.
What society actually told his generation, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
Be safe.
This is the plan for you.
Yeah. Look 40, 50 years out.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, you can have 2 careers. You can get a pension while you're still working. Oh, what a great retirement. And it's like...
The problem with that is you don't know if you're part of the population that's even going to make it that far. You don't know.
Right.
Like I had a buddy who, they've got 4 kids. They would do all these Ironmans, ride their bikes. Like, you just look at them and you're like, these are some bad people, right? They just did all the crazy stuff. And all of a sudden they come back from one of their trips. 3 months later, she's dead from cancer, and they've got 3 little kids, you know? And I just remember watching him go through that. I said, man, you don't know. Like, statistics are statistics. You just don't know which side of them you're on. And I think for far too long in my life, I pretended like I knew. Like, I was gonna, like, somehow I thought I had the 30 years. I don't know. That's what worries me, honestly, the most. And that's why I gravitated so much towards Kent, is because I was already thinking that way. He has this whole time is now, and he tells the story of thinking that the plane was going to literally crash and all of that. I can just relate to that because I think about that all the time. I think, man, is this going to matter when I'm on my deathbed, eyes are closing for the last time? Will this have mattered? Like, if I get into a spat with my wife, I think about that. I'm like, will this matter? I'm like, babe, I love you. This doesn't matter. Of course, she'll still be mad at me at least for another 18 hours before we can make up.
Pound of flesh.
Yeah, but I think about that, and I just let stuff go, and then I use it to realign myself all the time. I'm like, nope, that relationship, nope, that relationship, nope, that relationship, yes, and I align everything to that last moment, eyes closed. What will I be thinking about? What will have mattered? What will I have regretted? What will I wish I had done more of? And I think about that stuff all the freaking time. It's like obsessive.
How fun has it been to build Menace with your best friends?
Oh man, it never feels like work. We crack jokes 90% of the time while we're getting stuff done. Like our poor personal assistant, we have Jade. Man, I don't know how you'd ever put a job out on the internet in the real world for somebody to put up with us. I mean, there's no way anybody would do it. You have to be a freaking special individual to deal with because we'll be talking about something serious, like, hey, we got to write this $100,000 check or this or that, and we're cracking jokes as we're doing it, and it seems like we're totally distracted, but we're just mowing through stuff. It's just this weird way of doing business that I've never experienced other than with these 3. I want to ask you a question, since this is my show, by the way. Right?
Go ahead, bud.
What does it mean to be a menace to you? You've been around it. You showed up. You spoke at the event. What was nice is when we went around to speakers after the event like you and said, hey, you want to come back? Like, we do a good enough job. You want to come back? And everybody said, oh, yeah, I'm in. I want to come back. That always is a really good indication that you lined a few things up right. But like, what does the message of Menace mean to you?
The energy that I get from the Menaces is very similar with the mindset of like the Marine Corps. It's the few, the proud, right? Like we understand. I'm not putting you all the way there, right? Like there's
No, it's all right.
247 years a head start.
Dude, I'm not. That's a way taller mountain than we're on.
But the people that I think the message was resonating with that day, because I talked to a lot of them in the hall, right, are the ones that they want to do more than average. They don't want to be stuck in a status quo. They want to challenge beliefs, rules, restrictions. Like, it's kind of like, no, you're not going to put me in the box. I'm not a jack in the box. I'm a jack in the bull in the ring, you know? So I feel like the Menace culture.
Was that a Texas reference?
It tried to be. It really fell flat, so I was moving on past it. In my opinion, looking back and looking forward, I think it's going to be a lot of people that are self-employed that want to do something a lot more than be self-employed and hang out with their wife and kids and their contractors. Like one of the guys, one of the people who joined your MMA program, I've had a lot of fun talking to him. He's a Marine as well. He's a welder. And people may look at it and say, well, a welder will never be anything, right? What can a welder do?
Yeah.
And that guy.
You're just a welder.
Right. Yeah. And I can just tell in him, in the mindset that's changed with him, and the action he's taken to tagging me on social media posts, reaching out to me,
awesome.
Asking my opinion on things. Like, I can just tell he's going to be so much more than a welder.
Yeah, I
right.
love that.
And eventually, I think it'll get him to the point where it's okay to not be a welder anymore.
Yeah.
And to be a blank. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be an investor. Maybe it'll be a realtor. Maybe he'll be design something, create something, mold something, fabricate something. I don't know. I mean, I feel like he's now, what you guys are focused on is helping people break the norm and believe, I won't say in the impossible, in the atypical.
Yeah.
It's different and it's okay. It's actually good.
It is. It's fine. It's fine. Listen, it's cool if somebody judges you for being who you want to be. They were doing it before you decided to be who you wanted to be. They were already doing it anyways. So you may as well just decide to be who you want to be. I mean, you guys are trying to be menaces in the lending space. I mean, I was just talking to you about some of your goals. You know, get to $3 or $4 billion in loans. You know, coming out of nowhere like that. There already are lots of lenders in the space. You know, so you got to like punch your way through. I think a Menace is like breaking through the noise and getting attention of the marketplace and just attracting in the right kinds of people you want to do business with.
It's a funny thing, I'm at dinner last night. I'm with one of my competitors at this mastermind, and he's like, well, yeah, but what's your goal? I was like, no, we got to get it to $10 billion a year. And he goes, no way. And I looked at him, I go, there's $500 billion a year in real estate investor transactions. He's like, no, that number's wrong, and there's so many people that just use their own cash, and they'll never this, they'll never that, they'll never this, they'll never that. And I just smiled, and I said, I'll let you know when we get there.
You know what I would have done? I would have barbered him. I would have just got up and said,
I did.
Here's 200.
But he just bought me a drink, so I finished that drink, then I left.
That's good. Yeah, see,
I don't want to be ungracious.
Those are the kinds of people, because you're trying to get to a place that he can't even see. You guys are having conversations about getting to a place he doesn't even think is popular. Like, you know, like wrong dude in the wrong freaking room.
That's right.
Yeah, we're coming for you, Earl. 10 billion.
Earl. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and do the Money Minute. Stick around. We'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-vest.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Hey, welcome back, you guys, to Uncontested Investing, powered by Menace. I've got my co-host here, Tim Harridge with RCN Capital. Tim, we're so thankful that you decided to show up at the studios today.
Thank you for letting me stick around.
Yeah, awesome.
Is it okay if you do the Money Minute, though? They've heard me talking.
Oh, okay. What's this Money Minute? We'll call it the Menace Money Minute.
The Menace Money Minute is you have up to 60 seconds to deliver the only piece of advice that a listener, an entrepreneur that's out there will hear for the next 30 days. So just imagine they're going to be shut off from all information. Mm-hmm. You got 60 seconds to give them the best you got, the go juice.
Man, if that's not some pressure. Geez, I just might walk off my own show right now with that kind of pressure.
Well, you can't until you deliver the Money Minute, so
right.
Go.
Okay. So my biggest piece of advice is right now, if you wanted to get into entrepreneurship, you've got a company you've just started, even if you've been in business for a long time, don't sleep on right now. Right now, your competition is running for the hills. They're crying in closets in the fetal position, and this is your time. You'll have a chance, an opportunity, I believe, to grab 10 years worth of market share in the next 3 or 4 years if you'll lean in instead of leaning out and running and hiding. So don't sleep on the opportunity that's at your feet right now. It's going to feel scary. You're going to have the temptation to pull dollars back. You're going to have a temptation to be conservative. Don't. Right now is actually the time when you do the opposite of what feels normal, and you got to lean into the opportunity, and you'll come out of this and your competitors will be crying, sucking their thumbs, wondering how you gobbled up their market share. So that's my piece of advice. Get in the right rooms, lean in, put the cash in the middle of the table, and go dominate. Be an example, be a menace.
So that's good stuff, Terrence. And I really do agree with you on getting the right rooms. And the rooms that I've been in lately, there is a lot of fear. I think it's more confusion than fear.
Oh, I like that.
Once you get used to operating a certain way in anything, right?
Yeah.
It's I do this and I make this. I do this and I make this. I do this and I get that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I do this.
Yeah, where's that?
I need it. And then...
Because it's harder. It's harder right now. You got to fight and scrap like you've never fought and scrapped.
When like this guy I was talking to today, he got to where he was from 20 to 50 houses a year he was flipping. Mm-hmm. And he was used to making $50,000 to $80,000 per property in about 30 to 45 days.
Yeah.
And he didn't really listen earlier this year.
Yeah.
There's an element of this that people have to be careful. Being a menace does not mean you're a fool.
Yeah, or being irresponsible.
When you're hearing interest rates are going up, you can't think, oh, that won't impact me.
No.
Right? You have to shift and change your buying or whatever in real estate. So now this investor stuck with 2 times as much inventory than he's ever had.
Yeah.
For 2 times as long than he's ever had it.
Yep.
So he's done a lot of this, and he's had like none of that for a couple months. And
I think everybody's holding on to stuff. Like everybody's in a place they never imagined. But I think that's where there's some opportunity. It takes guts right now. Like not even guts. It takes commitment. We have a saying, creativity follows commitment. So where your commitment is, you'll be creative on figuring it out.
Right.
And we're in the stage where you gotta figure it out. You gotta look for the opportunities and the way to still hoe the field when it's raining outside.
Well, in some of those ways, and we'll talk a little bit of real estate on the real estate show.
I thought we converted this to the Menace show.
Well, you did, but
Okay.
I changed it back.
Okay.
Creative finance is a way to get creative, right?
For sure.
Selling houses turnkey. A large national rehabber that's friends of mine recently told me, he's like, no, I just started calling these groups like Jason Hartman and Kathy Fettke and Roofstock, and I've got them selling my houses for me now turnkey to investors.
Yep.
So it's like if the retail buyer isn't buying, you can sit there and cry about it.
Yep.
Or you can find the person that is.
For sure.
Right? The owner finance person, the turnkey real estate investor.
Yep.
There's a lot of money out there that needs to find a home.
And it's still moving. People think like it's not moving. No, it's moving. Maybe the people that you know it's not moving, but there's a lot of money that's moving right now. We just talked off camera. You guys are going to have a record-setting month in terms of loan volume. What does that tell me? There's a lot of money that's still moving. You know, now it may cost, you may, like if you're in a boat that's got a sail and you got to maybe go north instead of south because you'll still hit land if you go the other way, but you ain't got wind if you want to go this way. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So sometimes you just got to turn the boat. And I think right now is a time where you got to turn the boat. But whether it's you're stuck in your old ways, you've always done things this way, you don't understand this is how we operate. You catch yourself saying all those things right now, you're just going to find yourself in a place that's extremely painful, and truthfully it's self-inflicted. You know, nobody knows exactly, but you got to pay attention. You know, you don't drive a car with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
You know, people are trying to drive businesses right now with their eyes closed. You know, so.
Well, and I think that's a great point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, Tim.
I literally paused because I knew you were going to say something. But ultimately, if you're driving down the highway with your eyes open,
yeah,
and you see a roadblock,
yeah,
and you don't slow down,
bad day.
Bad day. And so I think no matter what business you're in, really and truly, if you're selling real estate, if you're selling roofs, if you're selling anything that's slowed down or consumer demand, the price point for the consumer is now lower than what you can get it for, whatever. Yeah. Like, you can't just keep buying it. You can't just keep trying to sell it the way you've been trying to sell it.
For sure.
You've got to pivot.
Yeah.
Or in my example, maybe hit the brakes.
Yeah.
Right? But the key is, and what I learned through making it through 08, is once you hit the brakes, once you pivot, you can't stop.
Yeah.
Because if you stop,
you die.
With momentum is death.
Yeah, for sure.
In business and in life.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that 100%. And I think right now is like don't get too cute for doing the dirty work. Like right now is where you gotta be a dog. You gotta dig in, dig your heels, look, because you just got. Now, if there was one thing, if we looked at the transactions in real estate and nothing was moving in the entire country, cool. I could get with you on the fact that there's no opportunity, but when there's still billions of dollars moving and circulating all the time in $1 trillion marketplace, like most guys that I know, like they've only got a business doing a couple $1 million a year, $5 or $10 million a year. That you're not trying to catch that much of that business to still make it.
Right.
So there's still, like to your point, like we want to get to 10 billion. There's $500 billion of investor volume. Okay, what does that tell me? We're not trying to get it all. We're not naive enough or arrogant enough to think that we're going to go grab $500 billion of a marketplace, but 10 billion, let's go. You know, like you're not even grabbing it all. Like There's so much out there. Even right now, there's so much out there. What's happening is you've got all the wannabes, I kind of was a business owner guys. They're leaving, right? Because even the real estate agents, the ones that were in the top 1% and were showing us all in their Facebook profiles, and really all they did was they went and sat down with Mr. and Mrs. Jones and signed up some paperwork, put it on the MLS, and whammo, that thing sold.
Right.
The MLS was doing all the work.
Right.
Well, now you actually have to have skills. You got to be able to market. You got to be able to negotiate. The grinders will find a way to get back to the top of the hill. The people that actually have skills and know what it's like to run a real business, to go out and hunt and kill something and bring it back and cook it up and then go do it again. Like those are the people that will find value in the marketplace still, because there's still massive amounts of money moving everywhere. It's just, it may not be in this room. I just got to go move to that room. Like it ain't that hard. You're not a tree, freaking Timmy, go move, you know?
Terrence, this has been extremely valuable.
Oh, I know, Tim.
And I'm running out of time.
No, you're not. We extended this show by 30 minutes today.
Hey, what I want to do is I want to take a minute to tell everyone about MenaceCon, about the amazing lineup you have,
Yeah.
And because this show will air in early December.
Nice.
Right, and your MenaceCon's, I think, January 11th?
You better know you're speaking at it.
Yeah, well, yes.
RCN's coming to sponsor it.
Don't say it. I knew you were going to. So RCN will be there as a sponsor. I'll be there as a speaker. And you've got Ed Milet, Carlos Reyes.
Brad Lee. Yep. We got Sean Whalen, Kent Clothier, Los Hustle. I got a bunch of guys that are just as successful as all those guys, just haven't heard of them. Like Luke Vennard, done probably $600 billion in transactions. Bunch of big real estate guys, actually. Yeah. Wink, wink for RCN Capital. But yeah, I mean, the whole point of MenaceCon is really to get the right guys in the room so that the person sitting there in their seat, they can see how these guys are thinking about the current environment right now. They're not paying attention to the headlines. These guys are coming to say, what are we doing for marketing? How are we going to get more sales? What are we thinking about scaling? They're going to hear that these guys are they are focused on taking market share right now and not running for the hills and packing it in. And I think as an entrepreneur, like, it's so lonely running a business. Even my wife, she doesn't understand what it is I've got on my shoulders, but a guy like you does, right? It's the most lonely place in the entire world because you don't get to turn around to somebody and say, hey, let me throw some more of this on your shoulders. So MenaceCon is really about putting all these super successful guys that have thousands of employees, letting all these people see their game plans, and then hearing how it is that they're talking, their self-talk, and their plans to actually go dominate, so that they can all leave there and go shut up their mom and their dad and their Uncle Carl, and they can go hit their goals for the year instead of packing it in and going and getting a job at Taco Bell.
Well, ultimately, I love it too, personally, because RCN Capital, like, people, we're a lender, but we have hundreds of employees in 7 or 8 time zones. I think it's like 20 total locations.
Dang, that's impressive.
Multiple continents, 4 or 5 countries. And we have to manage our business as a business, right?
Yeah.
We have capital inflow. People are like, oh, well, loans. Well, so if I had $1 billion sitting in the bank and I was only using 200 million of it, that's pretty irresponsible, right? Like, that's
for sure.
That 800 million is not doing very well.
You got to move your capital.
But if I have 400 million and I do $700 million worth of loans in 1 month, we're out of money.
Yeah.
So there's such from, you talk about treasury management, you talk about human resources, training, hiring, morale, rewards, marketing, sales, business development,
everybody on the same page,
legal, operations. It's amazing. Somebody said, oh, I was giving an investor advice on his big business. He flips 100 houses a year, and he's like, well, yeah, but you're just a lender. I said, yeah, well, there's a lot more into it than just like wiring money to the title company.
Sure.
It's So I'm excited to be there, and I love sharing the parts of our business that are unique, but also that are built on best practices of successful companies.
Yeah, and I think the language of business is the same, because like people that actually run businesses, they're ran by people. And if the people don't show up the way that you want, the business doesn't run the way that you want. So the language, the very language of business is people. It's like, how do you move your people? How do you motivate your people? Because you can't actually really motivate them. You can like inspire them. They got to motivate themselves. But like, how do you create culture in the company? And so I think the language of business, whether you're doing 100 house flips a year and having to deal with contractors, or you're doing loans, like the language of business is the same. Like, take out whatever you want and insert whatever you want, the language is still the same there. And so I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah, and that's why you can learn just as much. If you're a real estate wholesaler, you can learn just as much from a guy that one of your friends does like 3,000 roofs a year or something. I mean, in 6 states or something like that. The garage door guy. I mean, it's so intriguing to me.
Yeah.
I've learned the most in business from a plumber.
Yeah, I love that.
That was running 40 trucks.
Yeah.
That's a business.
Well, I think if you're arrogant, your ego is in the way. Guy said your ego isn't your amigo. then like you're gonna miss an opportunity to learn something from the most unexpected place that could make such a massive difference in your life. But you're like, oh, you're just a lone guy. You're just a lone guy. Let me turn my nose up, and it's like, and it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you because you've just closed yourself down to even thinking that somebody could even understand where you're coming from, and that's just not true.
So MenaceCon,
MenaceCon.com.
Phoenix, Scottsdale. What's it technically called?
Yeah, so it's in Phoenix.
I didn't say Phoenix.
It's in Phoenix.
January
at a big
11th,
casino.
12th, and 13th.
Yep.
MenaceCon.com.
Yep.
I'll be there.
You will.
I think you're going to be there.
If I remember to show up. If not, you'll work it out.
I will. I will take over your conference
I
for at
know.
least 5 minutes like you took over my show.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Well, thanks for coming, bud. I appreciate it. It's always good to see you.
Heck yeah.
We're out of time. Thank you for stopping back by. We'll see you next week. Remember, your network is your net worth, and today you've been growing both. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.